Sports Town. Show! Sundays, Mondays, we live for the fight. Hey. College game day and Thursday night. Hey. Rivals fall and the banter flies. We bleed our teams till the day we die. S-T-R-A-U-E, two loud mouths and a love for the league. From Cleveland roots to the world we go. This is the Straub Bro Sports Show.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Straub Bro Sports Show. Ken Straub here, big bro, with, as always, my little bro, Andrew. Andrew, how you doing, bro?
Dude, absolutely amazing. We did the episode in early August, but this is the one I've been waiting for. I've been waiting to get back into full swing. I am so excited. Let's do this.
Absolutely. We're back. Okay, we had some time off. Unfortunately, well, the last time we had a conversation, we were getting ready for Rapids playoffs. Unfortunately, we were bounced out in the first round of those playoffs by the Cleveland Cobras, who were then dumped out by the Ohio Broncos. But so our Rapids season has come to a close. There's currently voting going on for your Rapids offseason awards. Make sure you tap in every other couple days on the Rapids Facebook page. You'll see it shared through all of our extended networks out of the Rapids for everybody to see. But vote on your end of season awards. We're going to have a wonderful end of season banquet that I'm going to host that I'm super excited for. I got jokes written down. I'm roasting everybody. But we're going to have some fun there. Speaking of Rapids, speaking of the PAFL, the championship game is this weekend, and your own, me, this guy over here, I'm going to be going back home to the 216 Sports Network. I'm going to be joining Romel Thorpe, my guy Mel, at the 216 Sports Network on the call for the championship game. I'm super, super excited for that. Make sure you check that out on the 216 Sports Network. If you're familiar with the Straub Bro Sports Show, that's not hard to find. But make sure you check us out there. Saturday, 6:30, the Ohio Broncos and the Cincinnati the FC Bengals. Sorry, too much football on my mind. We'll go head to head, and I will be on the call for that. I'm super excited for that one, Drew.
No, I'm going to tune in. Definitely. Unfortunately, I can't make it, but I'm absolutely excited to hear you guys again because, God, that brings us back to the old the first time you were a broadcaster and I was running the camera with you and Mel. So it'd be good to hear you guys kind of work off each other again.
Absolutely. We're going back home. Yeah, Drew was the cameraman that day. Some shaky camera work, but my man got it together.
Listen. First time running a camera, and they throw me out with an RPO offense. I don't know what you want from me there. So
listen, made none worse by Mel introducing me on the broadcast and me just saying hi. Which, if you are ever tuned into any Straub Bro Sports Show production, you know how hilarious that is because I like to do me some talking. But nonetheless, that's all of our off the field duties. Like I said, that championship game is this week. The championship game on the 30th, we'll be doing some promo and some stuff for that. But look for me on that. But without further ado, it's time to get into it. And we were going to talk about news. There isn't anything news and noteworthy. So I'm just going to pull over to the side of the road, and I'm going to let the motorcycle brigade pass me. Drew, we had the first Browns preseason game. We had Shedeur Sanders' debut. The world has been waiting for the Straub Bro Sports Show take on Shedeur and the Browns' first preseason game and all of that. So I'm just going to step out of the way, and I'm going to let you Browns fans, you and all our Browns fans in the comments, you guys just have at it. What's up? What's going on to my guy Sterling? Big shout out to you. That's my guy right there. But Drew, you have the floor. For our viewers on Facebook and YouTube, as our resident Browns homer, talk to me about it.
It's I don't want to say tough. I don't want to say tough because you don't want to negate what Shedeur Sanders did. And just to preface, 12 for 18, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns, looked really good. Not going to deny that whatsoever. He looked really good. And I'm happy. I will never not be happy when a Browns quarterback actually plays well in a game. However, we said this before when we talked about this, when we were talking about training camp. I don't put any merit whatsoever on preseason games. And here's why. I watched Deshaun Kaiser, ex-Notre Dame quarterback, come in, absolutely light up the preseason. They go 4-0. He looks great. He's dropping deep balls right into guys' arms. It's looking fantastic. We proceed to go 0-16 that year. So while there is a lot to be excited for in week 2, however, he does have an oblique strain, so he probably won't play in week 2. However, while there is you can only go down in my book in preseason, you can't go up. He definitely didn't go down whatsoever in week 1, because I think that was a really great performance and a really good first live game from a player who has arguably a lot to prove to this coaching staff that he's ready to take the reins at some point this year or next year. But regardless, a great performance.
All right, so let me handle some business. First of all, Mama's in the building. What's going on, Mama? We love you. And Bobby Rose Jr. Is definitely in the building as well. Bobby, stick around. Full EPL review coming. And Mom's in twice. Mom's in everywhere. She's on Facebook. She's on YouTube. Daniel, watching Browns fans celebrate his debut like he won them a playoff game says a lot about where they are right now. That is from a resident Steelers fan. That's unfair. Here's what Shedeur does bring. Drew, ask me how many preseason games I watched this weekend.
How many?
1. Ask me if I watched the Cowboys preseason game.
Did you? I know this is a no.
Yeah, no, because I don't watch. I very rarely watch Cowboys preseason, but hot takes are back, baby, because I'm here for that hot take. I watched the Browns preseason game. I watched all of it. I watched all of Shedeur's throws. What I was impressed with, the throws that he needed to make, he made. Yeah. There is something, and it got brought up, and it does, the running around and the scrambling and not trusting the pocket. Something that he didn't do at Colorado because he couldn't trust his pocket. It's something that can be learned as he goes. So there was some times where he was dropping back 20, 25 yards where it was like, oh, buddy, this is not NCAA. Step up. You cannot do that. But that can be fixed. But what I liked was the confidence. What I liked was the poise and the ability to lead the team down the field and put points on the board. And man, like that's not been something you've had a quarterback that's been able to do until Joe Flacco came back in. I found out a stat. The Browns, up until Deshaun Watson got hurt, had the worst offense in Browns history. That included quarterbacks like Deshaun Kaiser going 0-16, and that offense was worse. So, yes, it's the first preseason game. Yes, he's playing against guys who probably aren't even going to make the roster, but he absolutely does have a Caitlin Clark effect. He brings eyes. We all wanted to see how Shedeur, how he would respond and how he would play. Here's my problem. I'm allowed to be excited. Do you know why I'm allowed to be excited? Because I was excited about him for him to get drafted, and when he didn't get drafted, all of the haters were as loud as hell. So if he went out there and threw 2 interceptions, they would have been loud as hell. So because he actually went out and had a decent preseason game, I'm going to be loud as hell. So here's my problem. The 4th on the depth chart thing makes no sense to me. So here's what I'm going to choose to believe, because I'm not a Browns fan. I'm an outsider looking in, but I know football. This is what I truly believe. I think the 4th screen is I think the 4th on the depth chart is a smoke screen. I don't think he's truly fourth on the depth chart. I think they realize if they put him second on the depth chart, this whole entire preseason is a circus. And it already is a circus. What's going on to Mark Hale, linebacker? What's going on, bud? Appreciate you checking in. I think it's a smoke. I hope it's a smoke screen, but I think it is because here's my problem. If Dylan Gabriel doesn't get his ass healthy, this dude's in trouble of not being able to play this season. They say, not me, they say the hardest time and the worst time for rookies to miss is this time right here. This is the most important time for them to be on the field. So Gabriel not being back or not playing, I don't know what his status is currently right today. And you're right. Mark's moving to free safety. He's out of the linebacker, but we still eat, sleep, gym, and hit. All right, that's what we do out here. If Dylan Gabriel doesn't get his ass healthy, he's out. There's no chance here. The fact that Kenny Pickett is even on this roster is a disservice to every other quarterback because I've seen enough of Kenny Pickett, and I know Kenny Pickett isn't an NFL starting quarterback. Okay, so I don't even want to hear about Kenny Pickett, and Joe Flacco is 47, so they're just trying to keep him on ice and healthy. But I think this might be a smokescreen because I think you're going to start the season. I think Shador's going to be the 2 guy.
No, I think you're right there, but I think it's a little more, I think, strategic in this point in terms of, I think when they went into it and they started watching everyone, right? I think that they saw Flacco's your one. He's in the pocket. He looks just as good as he did last year, 2 years ago. But you only need a half a preseason game for him to get ready for the season. So he's good. Don't worry about it. The other 3, though, I think when you start to look at it, they go, okay. And then they grab Huntley, so you have 4. They go, okay, we're going to cut one. Whoever looks the worst. Probably not Gabriel, probably Pickett or Huntley, depending on us, because you're not going to cut a rookie quarterback. You're going to at least try to develop him somewhat. That's typically how it works. The other one is probably looking to get traded. That's typically what it is. And so what I think that they want to do is they put Shador at 4. They put Pickett and Gabriel as the 2 and the 3 as kind of just a bait, kind of throwing it out there. Because if you look at like the Saints' first preseason game, all of their quarterbacks look terrible. Tyler Shuff, their rookie, threw a pick 6. I can't think of who the other person is, but he could not make a throw to save his life. And so and Jamal is doing exactly what I'm talking about here. People need quarterbacks at the beginning of the season. And the fact that we have a bunch of them and they're all serviceable as a backup or a stopgap quarterback or a bridge quarterback, that's what I think this is. And I think that they know that Shador has the most upside. And so they're starting him low. They're bringing him as slowly as possible so he understands every aspect of this offense. And then the other 2, whoever gets the highest value is gone. And then you're cutting the other one, probably Pickett or Huntley, depending on who fits your system the most. And then you have 3 and you're good to go.
We'll catch up on some comments. Now, I'm going to make fun of the Browns to you, but I'll defend them to Daniel. 6 quarterbacks on the roster is crazy. However, when half of them are hurt, you need somebody to play in these preseason games. Somebody's got to hand the ball off.
If Shador wasn't playing the whole game.
Somebody's got to try to get the wide receiver some work. And I'm just going to point this out because obviously Jamal is with the Rapids, Daniel's with the Rapids. I needed that. Saying Kenny Pickett is a Super Bowl winning quarterback is like saying when the Rapids win their championship and me and Drew get rings, that's like saying we participated in the championship. So if you're good with that, I'm gonna let everybody know that I lay some people out when we win. Okay, so if that's the criteria for being able to say that you're a Super Bowl winning quarterback, whoa. Yeah, I agree with you, and I also agree with this. You need to be able to see what Dylan Gabriel can do. The man can't stay healthy. And here's the problem that you run into right here. Like you're basing this with your smart Cincinnati aerospace engineering degree with your analytical thought that this is how you should handle the quarterbacks. Your team has a history of not doing this correctly and not. So for all we know, if I was to base this on Brown's history, Joe Flacco is going to start the year. Kenny Pickett's going to be the 2. Dylan Gabriel will be 3. They're going to actually make Shador the 4th string quarterback. And then by week 7, fans are going to be throwing bottles on the field again, like Bottlegate, and Shador finally coming in play.
I think the issue is that when you look at historic Browns quarterbacks, they are first-round picks that were drafted way too early and just thrown in the starting position because we need a quarterback. I think they're doing it right in this scenario so far. Flacco is your number 1. He is going to be playing most of your games unless things go really south. And Shador is going to be the one that's going to sit back, learn, and do it the right way. And we've talked about this on this podcast. Quarterbacks are going into starting positions way too early and trying to do things way too quickly. And that's why they're flaming out. That's why it takes guys like Sam Darnold, 3 different teams and 6 years to actually truly start to understand an offense because he's not given the time to develop. But you get a guy like Patrick Mahomes or, who took a year, understood the offense, has that natural ability, but was able to let the game slow down for him in practice and then finally get into it. I think if they do it the way that everyone kind of assumes they're going to do it, they're going to be doing it the right way for the first time in forever. They got lucky with Baker. Baker was able to learn on the fly, understand it, and do it. But that's not the norm. And I think that if they do it the way they do it, it's going to be okay.
The facts was to me. Just want to get that straight.
Okay.
And here's the thing. Browns need somebody like Jared Goff. Shout out to Darwin Filey, who's in the running for your Iron Man of the Year award. Vote on the Rapids Facebook page. That's what Flacco was. Flacco was their Jared Goff. Flacco came in there, slaying the thing around and made. Now, it's weird to say this, that Flacco can take some deep shots that sometimes Jared Goff can't, but Flacco came in there and did that. He played that role. It's exactly what he did. One of the reasons Shador wasn't drafted was because of this. I'm amped. I'm fired up. One of the reasons he wasn't drafted was the circus surrounding him. Yeah. The problem I'm having, once again, because something came up when he addressed a reporter, and I'm going to talk about that because I heard some backstage stuff from Mina Kimes that was great to hear, to top on that, and most people won't hear this. All of the stuff in college was Shador answering questions about his dad, and you all getting mad that his dad was talking. Okay? Yeah. Shador never stepped on anything the wrong way in college. I listened to all this stuff. I followed the kid. I followed him at Jackson State. Hell. Then he gets drafted to the NFL, and he's done the right things. The press conference after the game was amazing. Calling his dad, letting him know I gave myself a C+. He didn't play enough. He played good enough. Because he didn't play great, but he played okay. The addressing, let's talk about it because it came up after the game. He addressed Cleveland Browns reporter Tony Grossi and basically was like, hey, man, you have nothing nice to say about me. You know what I mean? And it kind of became a thing. Here's 2 things behind the scenes on that. Number 1, Tony himself actually appreciated that Shador approached him face-to-face and didn't call him out at the press conference or on the mic. Number 2, and this is from Mina Kimes directly. So I don't know if you know anything about football, but if Mina Kimes is going to tell me something, I'm going to listen. Yep. This is what Tony, and if you're around the Cleveland area, you know this too. This is what Tony Grossi does. He picks fights with players. He got into it famously with Baker nonstop. This is what he does. Shador is probably one of the first guys to handle it the right way. Baker just flamed him and would just start not talking to him in press conferences and just be petty.
Rightly so, if I'm being completely honest.
Yes.
But that's just my own opinion on that.
Yes, I'll say it. People like Tony Grossi are the reason that I say Cleveland sports as a whole becomes overrated. Our sports media is awful, and I stand on that, and I'll stand on my business with my own podcast. Cleveland sports media is so negative, and I know this because I've listened to it for 36 bleeping years. Just because I don't root for every Cleveland team doesn't mean I don't take in Cleveland media, and up until a couple years ago, it was all I could get. So it's consistently negative, It's never positive, and that's what these guys do. These guys have made a name for themselves picking at the only popular players on the team and them going back and forth. And now that the you have somebody there that's trying to move on from that, I'm proud of the way Shedeur has handled that.
No, I completely agree.
And it's also fair. I wanted to point out too that this isn't Shedeur picking on some random reporter who wrote something bad. This is Shedeur picking on a notoriously kind of, I don't want to call him a dickhead because I don't know him, but somebody who does this kind of things to promote responses out of players, and Shedeur handled it the right way.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's very mature of a rookie quarterback to that, because I think it was year 2 or 3 that Baker was like, Tony, really, man? Like, right. And like, so that's one of those things where I think he handled it extremely well. He's handled this whole process extremely well. Super just down to earth, ready. And so, like I said, if they do things the way that everyone is assuming that they're going to do and the way it looks like they're doing, they're going to do it the right way. And I think that's what it is. However, I'm going to preface this. We have talked about this since the beginning of this past draft. This isn't the draft that we were looking for. We got one because we wanted to see if we could develop one. But these rookie quarterbacks are in a very, very short timeline, because if this doesn't pan out, you have 6 or 7 potential quarterbacks to draft for next draft. And so you got to really start to look and try to develop quickly, and enough to them to say, we don't need to draft another one, because it could get to a point where we're 5-12, 6-11, and they're like, maybe you take a chance on Drew Allar, or maybe you take a chance on Arch Manning, or something of that nature.
All right. You told me to wrap it up, but I can't wrap it up because you opened up the door, and I'm going to kick it open. First of all, that's why Jamal is tuned into the Straub Sports Show, because Cleveland media sucks. Number 2, let's talk about it. Colin Cowherd has reported it. He said it's the most talked about secret in the NFL that the Browns have every intention to tank so that they can get Arch Manning and Nick Saban next year.
Now
I'm going full Cleveland sports.
No, well, I was going to say, Arch Manning's grandfather has said he highly doubts that Arch is going to go to the draft next year. Obviously it's up to the kid himself, but I'm assuming that his grandfather would know a good amount of that.
And I can't wait to talk about this in the upcoming weeks when we do our college preview, but everyone has just made this assumption that Arch is leaving. That's a smart family that's not just going to pick the right spot, but they're going to pick the time when he's actually ready. But go ahead.
Right. So that, and then 2, listen, man, Saban, one of the best college coaches of all time. Love it. Whatever. It's fine. I was just putting it out there so we didn't have to argue about this. 2, but 1, sucked as an NFL coach. And 2,
didn't have a quarterback, but yeah.
2 is done. He's done.
Yeah.
He was done with his life, man.
He was done with college, and he got to the point where he didn't want to have to deal with trying to deal with the money, and maybe. I'm
also good. I'm good.
And
this is also very true.
I don't fully agree with this, but I absolutely get where Nick is coming from. No, I don't want to say he doesn't have stats, because we saw him come in a couple of those games and take some snaps and be electric.
But you need consistent.
But that's also right. We're tanking for Luck, tanking for Trevor Lawrence, tanking for Deshaun.
Sure.
Tanking for guys that actually have played and won. Got you. Tanking for a guy who has less stats than you understand what I'm saying there. But no, I get you. Actually, to be honest with you, if you take Nick Saban from College Game Day from me, we're gonna have some issues. Okay,
I would also have problems, so I understand.
The pause button, yeah, cue the music, because we're gonna have some issues behind the scenes. Excuse me. All right, 20 minutes on the Browns preseason is a lot.
It's so much. I didn't want to do it.
That's okay. First of all, Straub, I like to mention that's a nice shirt you got on.
Thank you. You too.
Absolutely. It's not time to talk to the United States men's national team. It's time to guard the land. All right, it's time to talk about some Guardians. Now, we were streaking.
We're doing pretty good.
Streaky, but after a loss to the Marlins last night, we got absolutely hammered. Shout out to Austin Hedges being the only pitcher who didn't give up a run yesterday. Yes, I said that correctly. Austin Hedges, the only pitcher to not give up a run yesterday. But 8-3 in the month of August right now, Drew. This team is hot. The problem is this team has to continue to stay hot. I think you had mentioned it last week. We need Detroit to play 500 ball, and we've got to play like 600 ball, 700 ball. Like, we got to play outstanding from here on out. Talk to me, number one, not just about that man with his whole name, Colin Joseph Cephas. Talk to me about the whole government. I like that, Nick. Talk to me about what you've seen throughout the month of August.
No, you're right. 'Cause, I had the ballpark pass, so I've been lucky to kind of watch these games, and I'll throw this graphic up here real quick. So 62-57, so better than the 51-51 that we had when we last talked about this. 22-9 since that 10-game losing streak where we all just were ready to wrap it up and throw in the towel, which fair enough. 6.5 back from Detroit, from 8 games back since last we talked. 1 game back from the last wild card spot. So doing better. And if you look at the stuff at the bottom, slowly getting better in terms of team average, in terms of home runs and RBIs and ERA, all doing better than before since I last updated. However, that 17th and remaining strength of schedule, that typically is pretty good. You're a little bit below the median. However, if we're talking about teams like Boston, teams like New York, teams like Detroit, teams like Seattle, teams like the Rangers, everyone except for the Rangers has a lower strength of schedule remaining than the Guardians here. And so we've done exactly what we needed to do in August, and that is win these series. And tonight is another one where we need to win this game, win this series, beat a team that's below 500. However, once it hits, I want to say the last week of August, it is back-to-back games with our series with the Rangers, a series back-to-back series with Detroit. The Royals are coming in town multiple times. Seattle, I'm pretty sure, has one coming in with us. And so these are tough games that are going to be absolutely crucial for this team to play well in, because they're doing what they need to do now. But the issue is that because of how bad of a June we had, and how kind of up and down we were before then, we don't have the kind of gap that we needed to have to maybe have a 500 September. We need to have kind of what we're doing in August in September. And it's going to be a lot tougher because you have, I want to say, 3/4 of those teams having an above 500 record. And so is it doable? Absolutely. But it's going to be much, much tougher than it's been this past month.
I couldn't agree more. That is as spot on as it gets. The thing that is concerning, like you said, is yes, this team has to continue to kind of play this way above 500 ball. Yes, they absolutely, the hitting has to continue. It's starting to come along. I'm going to get to where the hitting is coming along in a huge way here in a second. This is a big one. The combo of Arias and Rocchio, the problem being you just don't know which one of those guys is going to hit on a nightly basis. Arias with an absolute bomb last night to tie up the game. Just the pitching kind of fell apart. Detroit's bullpen is awful. Okay, it's not a secret. Okay, it's very well known. Detroit's bullpen is very weak. To the Guardians bullpen, there's no secret here. Without Clase, does this bullpen have enough to hang on? And while we are going to play a tough stretch down, a hard schedule down the way, is it possible for us more likely to catch Detroit with that bad bullpen? Or do you think it's time for this team to really set its sights in on the wild card?
I think it's tough, right? Because if we had played all but maybe one series with Detroit, and we're 6.5 back, you're like, okay, even if we win all 3, we're probably going to kind of go back and forth, and we're not going to have enough to really beat them. So you want to zone on the wild card. We have 6 games remaining against Detroit. And so let's say
you could wipe it out right there if you're in contention. If you're
let's say you're 4 games back at Detroit at the start of those 2 series, and you win 4 out of 6, you win both series, you are tied with them now. And so that's where it gets kind of tough. Obviously, you want to say get into wild card position and then start playing strategically depending on where how the Tigers are playing. But it's kind of just one of those ones where you really aren't going to be able to tell how this team has to play until you get to probably like the second week of September. And that's where you go, what do you got? Because you have the Marlins, you have the Braves, who are under 500 without Acuna this weekend. That should be a series you need to win. And then after that, you start to you pick the Rays in back-to-back series, which are under 500, but they always play us tough. It's one of those ones where you just got to see how this team, if they can continue to play how they should, if you are going to have to play for a division or if they're going to play for a wild card.
I agree. And we've got some breaking Browns news. We'll touch back with it when we're done here with the Guardians. Now, Drew, you talked about how the averages and the hitting and all of that stuff was starting to rise. One of the key reasons behind that, Mr. Kyle Manzardo. And Drew, I've got some numbers here. They're going to make you proud, you baseball nerd. This kid is as advertised. Okay. And had he been playing more, obviously, you can't always say, well, oh, these numbers would be even better. Maybe the manager strategically picking his spots. But Kyle Manzardo, since the All-Star break, has been one of the best hitters in baseball. How good? Let me tell you. Okay. 368 average. Okay. He now has 9 extra base hits. That gives him second on the team behind Jose Ramirez. Okay. He is first in RBIs since the All-Star break on the team. He is tied for third in walks, while he is also blowing the team away in slugging percentage and on-base percentage. But that's not the stat that I want to talk to you about. It's his RC27. That's exactly
runs created for 26.
Yes,
you're pulling out runs created for 27 innings on the podcast, and it's not me.
For those of you who don't know, RC27, also known as runs created per 27 outs, is a baseball statistic that estimates how many runs a team of 9 identical players, based on a single player's offensive performance, would score in a single game. Layman's terms, if you took Kyle Manzardo and you just copy and pasted him 9 times through the lineup, how good would your team be? How many runs would they score? So let's use 2 people that we know very well. One Major League Baseball All-Star and one very close to us in the division. Shohei Ohtani currently has an RC27 of 10.7, which means 9 Shohei Ohtanis would score you about 11 runs a game. That's pretty damn good. Terry Carpenter of the Tigers. There you go. The team leading our division, the best hitter on their team, currently 10.5.
So pretty good.
Not bad. Almost 11 runs a game. Kyle Manzardo, 12.2.
That's disgusting.
9 Kyle Manzardos will score you 12, almost 13 runs a game. Okay. This man is on fire. Thankfully, he is on fire, because as much as I love this man right here, as much as he is my favorite Guardian, okay, like one of my top Guardians of all time, one of my top Cleveland Indians of all time, Santana can't hit the ball for his life right now. The man needs a break. I don't know why he's not. He needed a couple days off. He doesn't need a day or 2. Santana needs a week off to reset his body and get ready for this playoff push, but we haven't done that. But Kyle Manzardo, not just Jose Ramirez, but Kyle Manzardo.
No, and I think that's
big shout out to Ray for popping in for us real quick.
And I think that's what exactly this team needs, is because you look at kind of this team, and Jose is obviously Jose. Quan, while struggling recently, is still obviously going to hit the ball when it comes down to it. But you need that third. And you obviously had him with Naylor, but Naylor couldn't perform in the playoffs, and then now is not here. But this is what we knew Manzardo was going to be. Manzardo is going to be your guy that maybe isn't the type of power bat that Naylor is. Like, he's not. I think if we're talking just pure power, I think obviously Naylor has the edge. But if we're talking ability to just put bat on ball and get hard hits more consistently, you give the edge to Manzardo, and that's exactly what it is. Now, what I think this team is looking to do and this is obviously future, but you're going to use it right now. The CJ Kafis call up, which has worked so well lately. Kid is hitting everything. And when you watch him, especially, in the stadium, even if he doesn't get a hit, they're good at bats. There's solid contact. He's not swinging at garbage pitches most of the time. And what I think is better is he's a better defensive first baseman than Manzardo, which means you can move Manzardo to DH and give Carlos Santana those days off that he really couldn't do before because you needed Santana at first because it was kind of hard to keep Manzardo at first sometimes just because he's not there defensively yet. And so bringing Kafis in, putting him in right field and giving Santana the first base in some days, but also bringing him at first and giving Santana that day off is going to be really crucial, especially later on when we need him for those defensive plays or a big hit in like some of those tight games.
One thing I do know for sure, first base can be taught.
Oh, absolutely.
It happened 1,000 times.
We saw Naylor do it.
Right. So definitely Santana was a catcher. First things, let's clear up some love. Shout out to, we did this the same thing. Shout out to Rapids head coach Nate Hose for checking in with us. Shout out to Rico McGee of the Rulers Minute as well. I want to touch on this. Nick, I'm not 100% there yet, but I'm close. Only because Class A was not very great in the playoffs. He wasn't necessarily, in my opinion, put in the best spots, but not the time for that. But I am almost there on Cade Smith. I really do like what I see there. The other thing, and we got to mention it. So RC27, bro, come on. First of all, give me some love.
That was absolutely fantastic. I love that so much.
We've talked about the kid. It's time to talk about some of our other kids because we've got some other kids down on fire too. I want to give a shout out to first baseman Ralphie Velasquez, hitting the cover off the ball, promoted to AA Akron. And there's a certain number 1 pick, Mr. Travis Pizzano,
we are relaxing
promoted to single A Columbus. Drew,
and
go ahead.
I was say and. Got his first RBI of an RBI single, hit off the pitcher, and he was able to beat it out. However, I like it. I like the kids. I love the kids. We are still in a playoff race.
Okay, hold on. But hear me out. Because first of all, shout out to Romel Thorpe, owner of the 2-6 Sports Network, who I will be co-broadcasting the championship game for the PAFL with this upcoming weekend. Check us out on the 2-6 Sports Network. Just let me ask this question, because September is around the corner. That roster expands. Call-ups are available. Would you call him up so he just has the experience of being around a pennant race, of being around guys trying to continue in? If this team was just done, I would definitely want him up because I'd want him to get at bats. But I would be worried about the atmosphere of being around a losing ball club, picking up losing habits. Would it not be a good idea to bring him up and let him pick up some winning habits, pick up with a team that's hot, pick up with a team that's in contention, and possibly contribute?
So, one, talking about just like the realism side, Dolan's not bringing him up to get rid of his control of his years. Just off rip, that's we're putting. But if we're talking just baseball mindset, that's how this works. If he had started the year in AAA, or maybe came up early in the season and had gotten a bunch of at bats, had kind of gotten used to AAA and was hitting and didn't get hurt, I would say yes, get him up, bring him in. However, I think this is a one where he gets his at bats in AAA, they finish the season, and you go, hey, go get in the gym, go get some practice, go work on your game. You're starting off in AAA next year.
We expect to see you.
If you come to play, we expect to see you next year. That's, I think, the mindset we have. Because, one, I know we all forget about this. Lane Thomas is going to be back from injury. I know he's been hurt all year, but he's still going to be there. You have John, I know he's a pitcher, but John Means is still coming back and pitching for us again. You have some other guys who have had experience in the majors that still can come back depending on how they're playing. I think those guys are the ones I think you might want to call up before, just because of how important that month is going to be in terms of deciding whether we're going to make the playoffs or not. And I'm all for giving young kids opportunities. I just don't think you want to give a kid an opportunity in a big moment and kill his confidence and be like, I had the at-bat to win us the game to put us in the playoffs, and then we lost.
You're right, but I don't like you. Because you're right.
It's just how I feel about it.
No, you're 100% right, but I still wanted to get up. All right. So that'll do it for Guard the Land. I do want to break some Browns news. Shout out to my guy, Nick, for throwing that in here. But the Browns have signed free agent wide receiver Isaiah Bond, a talented wide receiver out of Texas. I would say, I mean, it's kind of hard to not bring up kind of why he wasn't a free agent. Was in some legal issues. However, and I was trying to find the article. He has been cleared. Go ahead. Yeah,
so he's been cleared of his sexual assault charge. The Collin County grand jury returned what's called a no bill, which means there was no indictment is going to be issued, which means I'm assuming they just had no evidence that anything occurred or there wasn't anything there to prove. Obviously, when you're 21 and you're coming off of this, there's a very short leash now because you're getting signed, but it's, hey, kid, listen, it's a short preseason and you're already on thin ice because, you couldn't play or practice or do anything with the team. So we'll see what happens. I wish all the best for the kid. I hope, now that whatever is done, it's behind him. He's on, he's working on it. And obviously I hope he contributes to the team. And so we'll see from there. Obviously a major talent, but I think a big hill to climb.
Yeah, big hill to climb. Definitely a talent. But definitely, if we just are talking pure football, if that's somebody who can reach his potential, that is a huge, huge pickup for the Cleveland Browns with an offense that kind of has struggled with its playmakers. Still don't know what's going on with Quinshon Judkins. There are no charges there. However, he's still not signed. He quick as hell. I'm not sure what the exact time was, but the boy was quick. Okay, I remember I watched him on that Texas offense. So that's a huge pickup for the Browns. If this kid can continue and get out of and continue to stay out of trouble and everything like that. I'm not going to mention anything about anything on the court case because I haven't read anything. So I will be more likely to put my foot in my mouth rather than say something intelligent. But like I said, big pickup. Yes, as you said, though, got to get in there quickly and get in the playbook and try to figure some stuff out there. Thank you for that one, Nick. All right, Drew, it is time. I'm most excited for my pre-college football predictions and our college preview, but I know this is your baby. It is partially mine too, but it is time to talk the footy. It's time to bring the footy back. It is time for your English Premier League preview. Now, Drew, hold on. I got to address that. Playing opposite of Judy, you need somebody over
Too quick.
Very much so. So, now, the Premier League is back. We kick off this weekend. I'm super excited for it. I know you are. Drew, I'm not going to lie. I cannot be fucking happier to have 11 men kicking a ball around to start the weekend, decide my entire mood for the rest of the weekend and week. But that is what's going to happen. So, the way I want to do this year is we are going to take just a quick 30-second break, and we're going to get ready for this preview. When we come back, homers to begin with. We're going to get the Chelsea blue. We're going to get the Manchester United red out of the way, first and foremost, so that there's no issues. I don't want to have none of that, all right? Sound good to you?
Absolutely.
All right, Straub Bros Sports Show, back in 30 seconds.
Ken's got fire and a wild hot take. Andrew's stats make the whole place shake. Laughing loud when your team goes down. Straub boys run this sports town. Hey!
All right. So back in our colors, red and blue, as we separate the lines of the show right here, draw the markers in the sand. So, Drew, I'm gonna give you the four first. You and your Chelsea Blues have had a huge offseason. You've spent about $250 million in this transfer window.
We sold $250 million too. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, whatever. I'm getting my shots out now. Take over the pod, make it blue for a minute, and don't just talk to me about this Chelsea offseason, or I should say, bring it back from last season in, but give me a bit of what you think your team is going to do this year.
No, I think that there's a lot to be hopeful for the first time in a while. I think at this point last year, you had another new manager. You had very little to really get excited for because all the momentum that you carried from the last manager was basically gone because you're having a new manager, it's a new system, there's no momentum moving in. But it's a lot very different last year, and I want to bring up kind of what we're talking about here. So just kind of give a recap of what happened last year. Liverpool obviously won. They ran away with the title. It was very, very obvious early on that Liverpool was running away with this. Arsenal, City, and my Chelsea rounded out the top four. Obviously, you and Spurs had a little bit of tough seasons.
Yeah.
And then all three recently promoted teams were relegated. So, like I said, at the end, getting that top four was absolutely crucial. Absolutely crucial. You get Champions League back. Champions League Nights of the Bridge are back. Absolutely fantastic. And then you have this summer where you come in, you're invited to the new expanded Club World Cup, which, because we won the Champions League 3 years ago, I don't know how that still correlated, but you get in and you win the thing. You win it. You beat the current champions, PSG. You absolutely demolished them, which was a surprise to everyone, including this man right here who was ready for the exact opposite score to happen. And the best thing is your top striker signing scored in that game. Your other top signing had an amazing game as well. And your star, who had struggled kind of throughout the season, absolutely destroyed that tournament. And so you come into this season, and obviously Liverpool absolutely just retooled.
And we're going to touch on Liverpool.
We'll talk about it. City is City. Arsenal is still really good. But now instead of being, we can get four. We can run three. We can be in the mix for two. And I don't want to say one because I think there is still a gap between, I think, Liverpool and everybody else. We'll talk about it. This race, I think, is going to be a lot closer in terms of everyone than it was last year. And I think it's going to be such a fun season. And the fact that I'm in that fun, it makes it even better.
I'm going to take shots at you. I'm going to poke fun, but I'm going to be honest.
Absolutely.
You have a good squad, and I think you are a contender this year. A lot. You talked about it, but a lot of moves this summer. Okay. I actually here to spoil it for everybody. I did a Premier League notes. These are just Chelsea signings right here. Let me keep
and departures.
Okay. But these are your signings and departures. So my question to you and for the audience is which signing isn't just, this was the best one, or the one I'm most excited about? Which signing, number one, do you feel is the one that actually puts you in contention? And two, when are we going to talk about the fact that you're coming for Alejandro Garnacho and the deal is pretty much done?
So I think it's two. And I think it's really going to be, I think the fact that we have two is going to make it so much better, because I've said for years, Chelsea have somehow managed to sign 1 million strikers and none of them have worked out. The last striker that we've had that has consistently done something for us was Diego Costa in 2016. And that was 9 years ago. We've signed about 15 strikers since then, and all of them have struggled or not worked out in one way or another. Signing João Pedro as your kind of false nine, ability to move, but also ability to finish striker, and then also signing Liam Delap, who is more along the lines of your kind of back to goal, getting the ball, making a turn and shooting kind of striker. Having both of those men being able to kind of rotate or play off each other, or also just come in depending on the team that you're playing, I think, and watching both of them in the preseason and the Club World Cup absolutely sync immediately with this team is something that we haven't seen as Chelsea fans since we've won the title in 2016. And so I think that is one thing that this team has been missing completely, because Palmer's going to get you goals. We know that. Gittins and Neto on the wing are going to get you some goals. And then obviously we have big guys in the back that are going to get you some goals on free kicks and corners and stuff like that. But a consistent number 9 that you can plug in and say, he's going to get you 3 chances and one of them is most likely going to hit the back of the net every game. That's something that we have been missing for 10 years. And the fact that it's looking like it could potentially be someone there, that is something that is absolutely phenomenal. Now, stressing your thing about Garnacho, it is a win-win, if I'm being honestly, whether we sign him or don't sign him. Because if we sign him for X amount, I think we're set at an amount. I don't think we're gonna go over.
I think we want 30, and I think you're coming in underneath that, and that's where we're arguing.
Yeah, but if he doesn't work out, you have plenty of guys in the wing. He's a young kid that you can sell or loan out or something like that. It's not a big. We have the depth to allow him to do what he needs to do. But if he does work out, you have a 21-year-old, right? 21. You have a 21-year-old kid in the palm of your hands that has shown that he can be absolutely electric when he wants to be, and can be a game changer.
And he'll be motivated.
And he'll be motivated, especially if we play him against you. And so it sucks for you, because it's one of those things where you're just like, honestly, it's the Mason Mount in reverse, where he wants to leave and he's going to be motivated to be better. It's one of those things where if we don't get him, fine, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. But if we do get him, you kind of can't lose in that situation.
So we've talked about it on this, and that's very well said by you, sir. We've talked about it on this program before. There is one Woj in the soccer world, and that is our guy Fab. Fab was the one who reported that it's Chelsea who Garnacho wants. It's only Chelsea he wants. He wanted to stay in the Premier League. That kind of bothers me because I wanted to sell him the hell out of the Premier League. Chelsea want him. He wants Chelsea, all personal terms. And that's the thing about football transfers that's a bit funny. Personal terms are agreed upon. And I'll touch upon that when we get to Manchester United as well. But personal terms between Garnacho, his agent, and Chelsea are complete. They're done. He knows what he's signing for. They know what they want him for, all of that. The problem is now the teams must come to an agreement on that fee. If I were you, I would just pay whatever we want. Or not whatever we want, but I would up the bid and I would go and get him. I think the kid can be special, but the kid has to be motivated. He lost his motivation. He lost his way a bit at Manchester United. And I mean, you want to just pass it over to me because I was going next anyways, and it was a good segue into it. But the thing that's happened with Garnacho is the same thing that's happened with Rashford. Is we're in year 2 with Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim came in and said, if you did not practice and you did not live a certain lifestyle as a footballer and as a Manchester United player, you weren't going to play. And now, as you see, Marcus Rashford on a permanent a loan to buy at Barcelona started playing well. Congratulations to him. He'll tear it up there until he loses his way. Christian Eriksen, Victor Lindelof, Johnny Evans, all released by Manchester United. Players who were, when they were on the field, scared me that something was going to go wrong. You're tapped into, as we said, by Garnacho. Jadon Sancho, Roma came in with a bid today. We're trying to clear him off the books basically any way possible at this point. He's actually agreed to take a wage cut to leave Manchester United. That'll help the process there. Anthony, We have basically went to him and told him to cut the nonsense and accept one of these bids, or he's going to ride the bench until January's transfer window. Real Betis is basically trying to stall us until the very last day, in the very last minute, send a very reduced transfer number in and try to get him from us. And we're not going to play those games, and I like that. But the clear out to me, and I started with the clear out. I was actually going to start with the signings, but I'm starting with the clear out because I told you, and I said this before, and I've said it in our group chats, and I've said it on here. If we bought a bunch of players, but we didn't clear this out, nothing was going to matter.
It would have been us in like 2 years ago.
There needs to be a new set standard at Manchester United, and I believe Ruben Amorim is building that with getting rid of these players. And here's the thing. Alejandro Garnett, Marcus Rashford was already on the way out. Those deals were in place. Sancho is not even training with the team, not even at Carrington. Those deals are being facilitated. But Anthony and Alejandro Garnacho were both told by Ruben Amorim, go find another club. You're not playing here. Players approached Ruben Amorim about trying to keep Anthony, and the stance, I think, came back a little bit. But for Garnacho, it's been the same since after the FA Cup final, which is go find another club. You're done here. And sometimes that's what young players need. We're not going to regret selling Alejandro Garnacho because he's not going to reach his potential at Manchester United. If he reaches it at Chelsea, which I hope he does it, I hope he kind of reaches it, and then you sell him and then he reaches it. But if he does, we can't be mad. Same with Anthony. We saw it week in, week out. It didn't work. I'm not going to be mad if he goes back to La Liga and tears it up. Congratulations. Go do it. That's fine with me. The clear out was most important. But the signings were good. And there was a couple of them. It started with Mateus Cunha from Wolves. After a long saga back and forth with Brentford, we finally signed Brian Buemo. Diego Leon from Cerro Porteño. Ooh, baby. And last of the official signings, and a big one for me, as we were in the running for Delap, and you stole him from us from Ipswich. But the big striker from RB Leipzig, Benjamin Sesko, he's in. He's official Manchester United player. Drew, just those signings alone, we had a conversation. The biggest problem for this team all of last year and where they finished was they could not hold the ball long enough to actually really score many goals. We saw the goal differential was awful. They couldn't maintain possession. They couldn't score goals. And then they were on the back foot so much, the defensive line just was taken apart because of the fact that they weren't as talented, and they were under halfway through the year, a brand new manager with a brand new plan. And it was all bad things coming together for me. We signed 3 attacking players, a big striker who goes up and gets it and scores goals, something we have not had in 20 years. You want to talk about you haven't had a striker. I don't remember the last time I had a striker that I was. Zlatan Ibrahimovic was the last Manchester United striker. I was like, yeah, all right, we're going to score some goals. Cristiano Ronaldo, when he came back, okay, was the last time we had a striker. I was like, all right, we're going to score some goals, okay? We finally have one up there. Now Bruno has help with both Mbueno and Cunha so that Bruno can just sit and pick around passes. Ahmed Diallo has played absolutely amazing and was coming along. The back line is getting healthier. I know Lisandro Martinez is always hurt, but Mateus de Ligt is there. Harry Maguire, for all of the hate and for all of the shit talking and all of that. This is because of the Mario. I actually like that. Shout out to
all right.
It's our version of it. I actually like that. But Bruno's going to be able to kind of just sit in the middle of the park, just sit in the middle of the field with him, with Ugarte and with Kobe Mano around him. We got better on the offensive side, which is what this team needed. There is talent on the defensive end. The offense needed help. You can get away even with Manchester City. I know they're top of the line. I know Liverpool has, but you can get away with having a B+ defense. You cannot get away in the Premier League with having a B offense. It has to be guys who can get chances and score goals and stuff like that. And I absolutely love what we did there, but we're not done. Reports in from Fab, Manchester United has approached Brighton and Hove Albion about talented defensive midfielder Carlos Baliba. It's going to cost us $100 million with add-ons.
Brighton doesn't sell cheap.
And no, they don't. And from everything that I've read and everything that I've heard, there was an emergency board meeting in which Ruben Amorim told the board, this is a must buy. We need this. If you add that in, if that deal gets done, because personal terms, like we've talked about, personal terms have always already been agreed upon between Carlos and Manchester United. If you do that, that is an A transfer window for me. And this is now a team that's ready to actually compete on a consistent week in, week out basis. Something that regardless of finish and regardless of FA Cup and Caballero Cup trophies, this team has not been able to compete week in, week in out on the Premier League level. This could be something that pushes it to that level. Not saying we need him. I think we're okay. Where I put us to finish, and we'll get to that in a second. Where I put us to finish is where I put us to finish regardless of this transfer. But he could push us up, and it could start to get even better.
So I know you hate when I compare my team to your team and like the similarities.
Yes.
But if we're talking the similarities here, and I'm going to, because there's two-sided here. One, the attacking signings are exactly what you need, because when it comes to players like Bruno, or it comes to players like Cole Palmer, they are obviously your biggest playmakers, but they can only do so much with limited people around them. Mm-hmm. So then when we got Nicholas Jackson, when we got Neto, when we got Madueke, and now you have people to actually spread the field, you see Palmer start to actually be a playmaker and not just a goal scorer, and his ability just multiply. It's going to be the same with Bruno Fernandes, with Cunha, and all of those guys, and Mbuemo, everyone, because you're allowing now Fernandes to sit, look up, and go, oh, there's not three guys on me, because they're not worried about everybody else. They actually have to worry about the other guys, and now you have that. There's that one. And the second one is, and I think you really should get Baleba, it's because there was a late transfer battle 2 years ago for a certain Moises Caicedo between us and Liverpool. And we, in the dead of night, stole him from Liverpool. And now he is the cog in our defensive end there. And again, allows Palmer, allows that offense, allows the defense to set up how they need to, because Caicedo is going to make sure that offense on the other scene is not as broken. And that Baleba is going to be exactly who you need in that kind of position.
Years ago, we missed on Toni Kroos. During the Ten Hag era, we missed on Frankie de Jong. We missed on Caicedo. We missed on when Arsenal went and got
Declan Rice.
Yeah, Declan Rice. We missed on Declan Rice. We can't miss here. We've got to get this done. And I agree with you. The biggest thing was the reason we won cups and the reason we were able to actually make a Champions League a couple of years ago was because the guys around Bruno would show enough flashes to allow Bruno to play. Now, yes, there's some consistency here in the fitness level. I've been reading up and I've been watching some of the preseason, but that the Manchester United players are reportedly coming back in better shape. And apparently there was a directive handed down by Ruben Amorim. This is how you're going to come back in shape, or you're not going to be a part. So that's a big one there. So we'll see. But let's get to it. It's time for your Straub Sports Show Premier League predictions. Who's going first, Drew?
You know what? I think because I went Chelsea first and then you went. Let's give your predictions first, and then I will commentate on them with mine.
All right, let's do it. All right, here you go. So, yes, this one hurts. This one was not fun, but I do have Liverpool repeating. One of the reasons I have Liverpool repeating is Drew. I mean, they went out and have purchased every single person they wanted. They're still
all German or Dutch.
Yes. They're still reportedly in on deals for Newcastle striker Alexander Isak. Isak is refusing to play. He's forcing a move to Liverpool. Liverpool and Newcastle are trying to get that done. And they are also in for a defender as well, another defender. The money that they have already spent, the money that they're going to continue to spend, because most of the Newcastle deal is pretty much going to get done at this point. If Newcastle wanted to make him sit, it's pretty much the only thing they can do. Their best bet is to get as much money as they possibly can, as quickly as they can, so they can maybe turn around and try to buy someone, but they'll probably get rejected, as Newcastle has been rejected by pretty much every target major target that they have gone after this transfer window. Manchester United stealing 2 of them. There are actually kind of 3, as they were trying to get in on Cunha, Mbeumo, and Sesko, all 3 choosing Manchester United. I love to point this out because it's just fun. He took less wages, Sesko did, to come to Manchester United than Newcastle. So still got that power. But I have Liverpool winning it all. My Champions League teams. Yes, Drew, I have you finishing second with your strong squad there. I have Manchester City returning prominently to the Champions League. And I have Arsenal actually stumbling a bit down the table. And yes, I wasn't going to put myself that far down the damn table. Come on now, you don't know me that well. I have my Manchester United squad finishing in 5th, finishing in that Europa League spot. Nottingham Forest continuing a hot start from last year, going in the 6th. Villa or Forest, I think you could flip-flop there. Fulham and Newcastle, I think Newcastle is going to struggle a bit with the amount of missed targets and not being able to strengthen the squad. I actually think this Fulham squad got better, and I think they're going to be okay. The shaky ones for me are kind of get down on this side here, but and that is, I think we have a problem this year. And I know you kind of agree with this as well. It started during the COVID years, but it also just was kind of a difference in football, and prices got so inflated that some of the bigger teams kind of ran out of money. And I know that sounds weird, but yes, even in football, some of these bigger teams kind of ran out of money to be able to haul in the big players. Well, COVID's over. Revenues have been streaming in for multiple years now. And what we have seen this year, especially with the Premier League, is not just a big club going after a single guy from a smaller club and a mid-table club or a lower tier club, but whole entire squads kind of getting raided out. Bournemouth lost its entire back 4. Brighton has lost multiple players. Brentford has lost multiple players. West Ham's lost multiple players. And West Ham isn't a small club. So for me, one of the biggest things is you see I've got a lot of the big 6 back to kind of dominating those top spots. And I have a feeling, especially if this move for Carlos Baleba does get done with Brighton, I think that's going to really hurt Brighton. So as you see, I have Spurs finishing 10th. A lot of people have Spurs finishing high. I don't believe on it. I was low on them last year, and I was right. And I don't think they've done enough to vault themselves high enough. But I think 10th, I mean, after finishing 14th, it's not terrible. But I think there's going to be a struggle for the Brightons, the Bournemouths, the Brentfords. I think, and as you see, we'll get to our relegated teams and our new teams, but I think those teams that kind of had a flash season or two, I think a lot of them are going to kind of crash back down to earth.
No, I think you're right there. And I think it'll show in mine. The teams that stayed consistent, that either added or even just did nothing the whole window, I think are better. Because I think you're absolutely right. Is you see now, like we said, teams like Crystal Palace, teams like Brighton, teams like Bournemouth or Brentford were charging 70, 80 mil plus for each player because of COVID, and you saw teams either just go away and allow them to keep those players.
Now teams are like, all right, fine.
Right. And it's one of those ones where now you're not seeing what you saw in the Brighton teams where they sold a guy, but then bought 3 or 4 players that replaced those guys, because those guys that they were bought are getting bought up by those bigger clubs again because they have the extra money to buy those replacements. And so you're starting to see the kind of that trickle down effect again, where those teams are falling down the table because there's no options left.
The reason people don't like big clubs in soccer is because they can do both things. They can go out and buy a star, and they can go out and buy the youth guy that can come up behind the star. And then we got back to a singular pyramid or a singular line after COVID, where it was small clubs buy small players, bring them up, sell them to big players, which is an older model, which was one we're more familiar with. But once that stopped and we've gotten back to this, yeah, these clubs are not just getting rated for their young talent, they're getting rated for their stars too. I think one of the biggest reasons, and I'm going to put up your prediction here and let you take over is, and I'm going to kind of see, yeah, because we have them both in about the same place. A team like Crystal Palace, who's been losing guys, trying to replace them, and now has to play European football on top of the Premier League. We saw what that did to Newcastle, a team that can spend money. A team like Crystal Palace who can't, it's really going to hurt them. So, Drew, your turn.
Yes. So similar but different, I think is a very good way to put this. We both have Liverpool. I think we both agree. Just especially in the beginning of the window, the guys that they were already pulling in were immediate starters. Frimpong, Verts, Ekateke, just guys that you know are going to slot right in, replace the guys that they lost, and basically maybe not do just as good or better, but fill the role that they need to. And that's why, like I said, I don't think it's going to be such a running away with it as last year, because I think it's going to take time for those guys to develop. But I still think when we hit November, December, they're going to be going full steam, and it's going to be tough to take them down later in the season. Then, if we go to our thing, obviously we have the same top four. I have City and Chelsea flopped. One, because I'm a pessimistic Chelsea fan. Two, because we are, again, now in Champions League. And like you talked about, that 3 pages of transfers and departures for us, a lot of those were departures. And so you don't have the squad depth to handle all of these tournaments, especially since before it was Conference League, where you could throw out young guys, you could throw out backups and still win games. You're putting out starters twice a week now when you start Champions Leagues. And so I think we have the talent. I think when it comes to someone like City, they have the experience of this for so long that I think they're going to edge us out for that second spot.
And you are a team that is notorious for, rightfully so, focusing on the Champions League because of your history of being able to win that thing while finishing 7th, or or winning it while falling down. So I get you there. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then I think we both agree on Arsenal. I think they really haven't. They bought Gyökeres, but you obviously don't know how he's going to play. Transferring from the Portuguese league to the Premier League lately, that hasn't worked out for a bunch of teams. I think the last one to do it well was you with Bruno Fernandes.
Hey.
And so we'll see how he pans out. But other than that, they really haven't bought anybody that's going to play their first team. Saka coming back from injury, we don't know how he's going to be. A lot of questions up in the air for that Arsenal team. Aston Villa, literally, I think they finish 5th every year. And so I think that's just kind of given at this point. We have a disagreement. Tottenham, I think, with a new coach, taking Brentford's coach, who exceedingly brought that team up out of nowhere. I think putting him into a team that's really talented, honestly, just off a base level, adding some new players in the transfer window, I think they get a massive boost and they start to actually threaten this year to some European spots. Then you have the United's back-to-back, Manchester and Newcastle. I think, like I said, you have a great team. I just think it's going to be at some point in the season, whether it's beginning, middle, or end, there's going to be a bump. And I think you're going to be sitting 4th, 5th, or 6th, and you're just going to hit a roadblock and stumble a couple spots down. That's why you have you in 7th. But honestly, the way the Prem plays, I think that still gets you a European spot. And so I know you aren't a huge fan of sometimes a conference or Europa, but it's a step in the right direction. I think that's a positive.
Agreed.
Newcastle, I think we agree completely. Isak's not playing for you, regardless if you keep him or not. You haven't bought anybody in the window. I don't think they have Europa, but it's still not great. I honestly potentially had them down lower, but I think that they're going to make some moves potentially to get maybe in January or something to get them back up in that 8th spot. But I just don't think they have kind of the gas to do anything this year.
And here's the other team we disagree on. I have Nottingham Forest in European football. You have Spurs in. Talk to me.
Yeah, Forest, I think they have multiple things. I think Newcastle or Nottingham Forest, started to kind of get figured out at the end there. Like that sit back and then blazing counterattack. It worked for 3/4 of the season. But then you start teams go, oh, let's just play 6 back, wait for them to break, take the ball back from them, and then press back. And they kind of got stopped. And that sometimes happens with Nunez managed teams. We saw it with Wolves. Wolves was battling for Champions League spots for the longest time. And then at the end of the year, they were finishing 8th, 9th, 10th. And so I think that's what's going to hit Forest this year. They also lost a massive goal contribution guy in Anthony Olenga to Newcastle, which is their only big signing. And so I think Nottingham loses that. And also Forest now have to play in Europa League, which is something that they have never had to do with playing with Europe. And again, I think that's the Newcastle thing. They're going to get hit. They're going to get hit hard. And I don't think that they have the play style to continuously play the way that they play and finish high in either tournament. I think that's going to be really, really hard for them.
I'll take a look. You have convinced me about Nottingham Forest, but there is no way you have convinced me to replace them with Spurs. But
that's very fair.
I do agree with you on Nottingham Forest. I have a question for you because before you go through every one of these 20 teams.
I was about to skip like 5, so
that's okay because I want to save the relegation topic for a different conversation. We have a certain team in a couple of different spots, but I want to have a conversation about them. You have Everton finishing 14th. I have Everton finishing 11th, near that top 10. They fought for relegation 2 years in a row. I actually think, and call me crazy now, I think this Everton team might be one of the sneakier teams and one of the more entertaining teams to watch this year. I think the Everton teams are going to be the team where all of a sudden you go, wait, we drop points to who? And I think that's going to happen a lot this year. A lot of guys, they released some guys, Neil Maupay, Mason Holgate. There were some guys that were released, but they brought in Jack Grealish on loan, which I actually really like. They brought in Dewsbury Hall from Chelsea.
That's a great pickup for them.
Right. It's exciting there. I like those signings. I think Jack Grealish has something to prove. And I think if you can get a Jack Grealish with something to prove and you start to tap into, not when he played during the Champions League, but when you start to tap into that Aston Villa Jack Grealish, who had to kind of carry some teams and did, it kept that Aston Villa team afloat. Could you imagine if he was there still now? But I think Everton is going to be a sneaky team to watch this year.
No, I think you're right. And I think I kind of cut the spot below Everton. I think it's Everton and up. And then I think West Ham is down, I think is really, really starts a relegation battle. And honestly, spots 10 through 14, I was going to say, you could flip all the way through and I'd still be like, yeah, I pretty much got that right. Because all of those teams are very similar where they lost a guy or two, but their main squad's still there. And their manager's been there for a couple years and they still got things going strong. And so all those teams are kind of really just in and out, up and down in that area. And I think you're right, though. Everton, they have a very, very strong defense. They're really bolstering their attack with Grealish. The issue with me is that, especially the past couple years, even when they've had some talent, they have started so slowly where it's taken them till November to actually start doing something. And then you're like, oh, okay, here's Everton. Remember, Everton was good for a bit. They got that deduction where they went down a bit.
Yeah.
And they still went up a spot or two. So I think they're in that mix. I think they're going to be safe from relegation this year. You just got to see how they start in the beginning because, man, it's taken them a month or two to actually start getting fully going. And Grealish, with the way he plays, it's such a divisive way. It's gonna take a minute for him and his teammates to link up and actually be, and that's why I have him a little bit lower. But I wouldn't be surprised if they rolls all the way to like a 10th.
Two things about that. No, and one with Everton and one about your 10 through 14 comment. One, we would be having a different conversation without that 10-point reduction. That 10-point reduction basically dropped them into relegation and they had to fight out of it. They were clear away from it. They were doing fine. We wouldn't be having that conversation if it wasn't for that unfair 10-point deduction, as Manchester City still just continues to skate. The other thing you're saying, right. The other thing you mentioned, how 10 through 14 could be flipped. Now, when we make these predictions, we relatively do pretty good at the top. Somewhere through the middle gets a little wonky, and we usually do pretty good at the bottom on our relegation teams. I think I nailed 2 out of 3 for last year. I think you nailed 3 out of 3 for last year. But
I think I kept Leicester in, so I think it was swept through
did
as
you?
well.
I've relegated Wolves 2 years in a row, and as you see,
So I have it too.
I'm leaving that there. But the other one is, as you mentioned it, I have Crystal Palace 12th. Now we're baking these off of strength of squads right now. Okay, based on the strength of squads, this is how we feel that they would go. Crystal Palace is losing players. They have potential to lose more. If something goes wrong there, considering they are still playing in Europe, you could possibly have a team that is battling in Europe while also battling relegation.
It's possible. I think
I'm
the thing that's
not
good for them.
predicting it, but if
No.
things go bad, because usually that's what happens. Things go bad for one team, and all of a sudden you look up and go, "Wow, they're all the way down there."
No, I think you're right, and I think the one thing I think they have going for them is that I think the only person I think they stand to lose still is Gahey, but that's like I think Crystal Palace is asking like an insane amount. Gahey's not like,
That
oh,
is
I want to leave.
Liverpool are in for them. That's the defensive target that Liverpool I mentioned was in for. But go ahead.
But even if he does leave, I think the strength of that defense is going to carry them to be safe because you have obviously American Chris Richards, who has come on amazingly lately. You have Munoz, you have Lacroix, you have this very, very strong defense that's carried them to the FA Cup and now a Community Shield victory. And so it's one of those ones where
the problem for Crystal Palace, and can you full screen me?
Yeah.
The problem for Crystal Palace here's Crystal Palace's transfers. Those are all outgoing. Okay? Those are all outgoing. Okay? There's only 2 guys in. Okay? Walter Benitez and Borno Sosa. Okay? One from PSV Eindhoven and the other from Ajax. So, yes, talented players, but a lot of guys out. Okay? And a lot of goal contributions out. So that is a problem. So, but we will see. What I will say is the exact opposite of Chelsea's strategy. Hey, we'll throw away the league position because we have a chance to win the Champions League. You will see Crystal Palace throw away Europe if it means we may not stay in the Premier League. Because while this is great, staying in the Premier League is the difference between $56 million coming to your $100 million coming to your club and like 12. So that's a big one. Now, relegation-wise, kind of unfair. We did this a bit out of order because we're going to talk about some new teams before we talk about the new teams. I have Wolves, newly promoted Burnley, and unfortunately newly promoted but gladly promoted Sunderland. Drew, you have Wolves as well, newly promoted Leeds, and newly promoted Sunderland. You have Burnley surviving. I don't. Before we get too deep diving into relegation, well, here, we'll start with this. I think Wolves is going to finally get relegated. So do you, for the same reason we've been talking about for years now. Their talent keeps getting rated. They're not being able to replace it fast enough. And I think it's going to catch up to them finally this year. You agree?
No, absolutely. I think that they've replaced the players that they've lost, but it's not of equal level. It's very much stopgap transfers. Like Strand Larson is not an equivalent replacement to Cunha. It just isn't.
No.
And so it's one of those ones where you just saw them year after year go lower and lower and lower and lower. And they've stayed here because they've gotten some lucky results and they've been able to do it. But now I think it's fully just boom, they're going to have to bite the bullet. It's been coming for a while now. The transfers that they've gotten have not been up to level as they have. And as we'll talk about it, you have 1 or 2 teams that are coming into the Premier League that have 2 very different styles and both could potentially be successful and kind of jump Wolves finally and bring them down.
Let's talk about those new teams before we finish out our relegation conversation. Boom, your newly promoted teams to the Premier League, both Leeds and Burnley. Basically, we're battling it out to have the best championship season of all time. Burnley was on the fast track before some results down the stretch kind of let them up. But Leeds finished first, as you see this amazing graphic put together by a little bro here. Plus 65 on the goal differential. 7 players brought in. Leeds, to me, has one of the stronger squads of the newly promoted teams. I'm going to start with them. The transfers in, I was Yeah, Straub, you're due at the Guardians game.
I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't worry.
I was a fan of. I really like the Shane Longstaff edition. They didn't lose a lot of guys. I do. Well, I don't like this Leeds team. I absolutely hate them as a Manchester United fan. But I actually think with the guys that they've added and the talent they have, I actually think they have a decent chance to play and to play. They have a decent chance to remain and to avoid relegation, as you see last time in the Premier League 2022. Your thoughts on Leeds, and then you don't think they're going to survive. So then at the end of that, add in your thoughts there.
No, I think Leeds is incredibly talented. And I think the fact that they're bringing in guys that they had when they got relegated last time, in terms of Brendan Aronson, in terms of Somerville, these guys, and they're especially attacking, they are now used to the Premier League. They've been there. They know what it takes in a season. They know what it takes out of them.
Daniel James played in the Premier League.
And so it's like, it's those guys are going to help them be successful. However, if we're talking about what it takes to survive a Premier League season, it is being good enough defensively to handle just out onslaughts from certain teams and surviving with a point or surviving a 1-goal lead. And I think that's where Leeds struggles a bit, because I don't think that there's any players that they've brought in or that players that they have kept for a while that have the experience to deal with those kind of games in the Premier League. And I think that's why you're going to see a little bit of struggle, because you're going to see reduction in goals. You always do when you see that in the Premier League. But when it comes to goal ratios, they very much are very similar in terms of kind of, but they're flipped, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I kind of get a little bit nervous for Leeds, is I think that defensively they're a little lacking. And that's why, if we want to go into Burnley here, that's why I think that they are going to stay up. Because look at that. 16 goals the entirety of the championship is absolutely unreal, no matter what league you're in. Giving up 16 goals is incredible. And obviously they don't have 95 is incredible for a Leeds team to score as well, but that's not going to last. That's 16 goals against, and they've also brought in 13 players, kind of a la Nottingham Forest style, where they just kind of brought in guys and they're going to see what works there.
A big one, including former Manchester City defender Kyle Walker.
And Armando Broja, Ugochukwu, and Bashir Humphreys from Chelsea. They're just rating us, apparently, both of us. But I think that is the key to success in a league like this. You saw that in Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest was a very good defensive team. They came in, they bought a bunch of players, and they went, we're just not going to give up goals. We may not score a lot, but we're not going to give up any goals, and we're going to wait for our attack to develop, and then we're going to move up the table. And that's why I think Burnley is going to succeed here. Maybe not as well as a Forest, but I think they're going to do enough to stay in. And I think that's why I like this Burnley team a little bit more than Leeds.
All right, so don't mention the last one yet. I want to leave Sunderland for last. So it's funny because we disagree on these two teams. I think Leeds stays. I think Burnley goes down. I do agree with you. Bringing in Kyle Walker is big. Axel Tuanzebe from Ipswich, former Manchester United defender, is a big one. I'm very surprised that you're down on Leeds when one of your favorite players of all time is now back in the Premier League. Ethan Ampadu, defensive midfielder there for Leeds. So I knew you would be excited for that one. But my problem here for Burnley is there's certain things where I'm just like, okay, certain guys just aren't good enough to start in the Premier League and lead their team. One of my famous ones that we disagreed on, and at this point I have to admit defeat, was James Ward-Prowse. I felt like if James Ward-Prowse was on a good team, he could lead them. Well, he went to Aston Villa and he comes off the bench. So, and even when he starts, he's okay. If former Manchester United player Hannibal Merge is your cam and he is your creative player in the Premier League, you're going down. And I'm a stand on that. Okay. I don't care how good your defense is. You're not going to score enough goals with him leading the team, with him being that creative role, you're not staying up.
No, and that's a very valid point. And I think that's where I would understand if you see a Burnley team that's only giving up 30, 40 goals, but can only score about 30 themselves a season. And so that's where I would understand and see, okay, that's why they got relegated. Yeah. I just think that there's going to be something with these new players that they've brought in that's going to create a spark. That's going to get you the goals you need.
Well, there's the two teams we disagree on, and then there is the last team that we agree on being relegated. However, I don't want to talk about that. I am excited to have Sunderland back. You're excited to have Sunderland back. And if you don't have a favorite Premier League team, I encourage you to make sure that you watch Sunderland's first home Premier League game, because it is going to be absolute scenes. It's going to be one of the best. It's going to be one of the best atmospheres all season. Is going to be that first home game for Sunderland. I don't know if they're at home for week one, for match week one. But Drew will get that for us in the back. But either way, that is an exciting one. Now they came up through the championship playoffs in which they won. They had a decent campaign, 63 goals scored for, 36 given up, just a couple more than Leeds. They scored just a couple less than Burnley. 11 players brought in. An amazing third kit launched. Sunderland, known as the Black Cats, have a beautiful all black kit with a cat's eyes on it as well. But Drew, we can talk about atmospheres and we can talk about stadiums and we can talk about jerseys. At the end of the day, it comes down to the players on the field. And what scares me for Sunderland is, have they done enough? They fought through the playoffs. Usually fighting through the playoffs is a recipe for relegation the next year in the Premier League. They've tried to bring in some talent. They've brought in some players from Spurs. From Brighton. They've brought in Granit Xhaka from Bayern Leverkusen, a Premier League veteran. Mark Guiu from Chelsea is a loaned in. They've tried to bring in some players. The problem is they've also lost. They lost Joe Bellingham. They lost. There was one other name that was the big one. They lost Bellingham, Jude's younger brother. Has Sunderland, throughout all of this, all of the atmosphere and all of the love and all of the we're glad you're back, has Sunderland actually done enough to stay up? Because I don't believe they have.
No, and I think that's the massive problem here is that, listen, the team that typically wins the playoff is a team that is beloved. Like we talked about the Luton Town team that had to make renovations to their stadium just to be allowed in the Premier League. Mm-hmm. And now Sunderland, a team that's been long loved and just we want to get back in the Premier League. But unfortunately, also the team that wins the playoff typically is levels below the top two teams. And the top two teams all have a hard time staying up themselves. And so if you look at Southampton last year, if you look at Luton Town the year before, they just can't keep up. And so it's one of those ones where we love Sunderland. We are going to root for them the entire season, but it's one of those ones where if their season ended in January, we wouldn't be surprised. And that's the one where, but then, and I think that's where you get to the point of the fans understand, they see that's happening and they go, let's enjoy the rest of the season. And that's what you saw in Luton Town. That's what you saw in Southampton. And so you're rooting for them. You're hoping for the best, but that's kind of what the reality is of that playoff winner now.
The difference,
and so that's what they have to expect.
Yes, the difference that I think there could be for Sunderland, not in terms of relegation. I do believe for sure they will be relegated. Yeah. We saw it with Burnley. We saw it years ago with Bournemouth, and we saw it a little bit years ago, a couple years before with a couple years forward with Brentford, and even further back from Bournemouth with Crystal Palace. Some of these teams that have bounced down come up, bounce back, come up, bounce back, and then stayed up. Leeds looking to do that. Leicester tried it. They couldn't get it done. Leeds trying to do that. We came up after all this long time. We got bounced back. We learned. Now we're here again. We're trying to stay. Burnley, same exact thing. Came up, didn't work, went back, dominated. Now we're back again. I think Sunderland has that opportunity. I think they're going to get bounced. Hang on to who you can hang on to, go back down, build off of that, dominate in the championship, then you're ready to go. So 3 years, I mean, this has been a project building in Sunderland since the Netflix documentary when they were relegated all the way down to League One. Okay. Yeah. Now they've built back up. That takes time. So that is the exciting part. If you're a Sunderland fan, enjoy these scenes, enjoy those atmospheres, but almost know this is a one and done, but we'll be back.
And by the way, Saturday, 10 a.m., they host West Ham. Beginning of the season, they will be there. That is going to be just absolutely amazing.
And look for Sunderland to make that a game with West Ham. West Ham lost some guys. Yeah. Not predicted to do very well by either of us. Not relegation bad, but not anywhere near Europe or the top half of the Premier League. So that'll be a good one. I'll be checking that one out because I play Sunday against Arsenal. Let's go battle. Let's go battle the big ones. There you go. Battle of the big ones there. All right, Drew. That'll do it for us here. That's done. I'm done. I got no more Premier League thoughts. I'm tapped out. I was excited to do this week, but it ran me dry. I'm out. Yeah, all over here, baby. Good luck to you. That's the only time I'll say it. But yeah, that'll do it for your Straub Sports Show English Premier League preview. So let's wrap it up here, Drew. You got anything else? Final thoughts? Anything else on the schedule?
Well, thank you for everyone listening, watching, putting in the chat, however you interact with us. We absolutely love it. Thank you guys so much. Also, next week, we are back officially. College football preview. It is going to be electric. Listen, we love soccer. We love the NFL. Nothing gets us amped up more to talk about than college football. And so, you know what? This is going to be amazing. And you know what, Payne? You came in the perfect time of coming across this channel because if you like college football, if you like the NFL, if you like soccer, any of them or all of them, this is the place to be because you know what? We are going to be talking about everything, and it's going to be an amazing show next week. We're working hard.
Absolutely. And listen, get it on the ground floor of the Straub Sports Show. Absolutely. Before we take off, we appreciate all of that as well. Drew, yes, we're back in full swing for college football. I've already been working on some predictions. I cannot wait. Ooh, and I like that. Texans.
Good. I'm so sorry.
Spurs, and you missed the soccer part of the soccer conversation, but the Spurs one in there. I love to be hurt. Absolutely. So we've got some fun ones because Cowboys and Texans is always a fun rivalry. Notre Dame plays Texas A&M again this year, and we both love a good Spurs rivalry.
Also, I peeped the logo there. We got a Clint Dempsey profile picture there. We talk USMNT all day. So yeah, yesterday was dumb. You Spurs it up, and we appreciate you being back, Spurs. You got your moment of glory at the end of the season, and then it just right back down.
I'm not gonna lie, I was excited for that one. Okay, after being the brunt of allowing you to take away the Spursy jokes, it was good to have one back, and we definitely appreciate you for checking in with us here. Sorry that you caught us late. Usually a 5:15 start time, but we're back next week. Full college preview. None of this Browns preseason stuff. None of this Browns preseason. No preseason next week. We'll do some EPL review at the end of the show, but full college preview. We're gonna bust through and we're gonna bang through each individual conference. We're not gonna spend a long time in each. Straub's gonna get a team or two to check to have you look at. I'm going to give you a team or two. We're going to run through. We're going to give you a bit of a playoff prediction, maybe a little bit of a Heisman preview. And then, as always, I'll give you my hot takes that I have been killing on for the first 2 years that we've done the show. And they will definitely be back this year. Thank you, everybody, for checking with us this week. You got a Guardians update before we leave?
2-0 Miami, and that's not the first. So that is why Tyler says I may not want to come, but I will come anyways because I'm a sucker for pain and I love baseball.
All right, meeting the boys down at the game. All right, that'll do it for us. Thank you, as he said, everybody who has been in the comment section, been with us on Facebook, been with us on the Straub Sports Show YouTube page and Facebook page. Make sure you check those out. And as I said, I'll be on the broadcast for the PAFL championship game with my man Mel for the 216 Sports Network. Check us out there. Thank you, Mom. Love you too. And always thank you for the good luck on Saturday. So that'll do it for us. For Drew, I am Ken. Big bro for little bro. Straub Sports Show. Tapping out. And as always, love yours.